Tossing Grenades at Windmills podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Tossing Grenades at Windmills podcast. I'm TC Ricks, and this is a special episode that I am calling The Nail. There's a popular poem about unintended consequences from small things that starts with a nail that was not in a horseshoe that threw the king that eventually caused an entire kingdom to collapse. We all, and by we, I mean everyone who isn't a monster, want Trump to lose in November. And we all have a firm but resolute determination to vote against him. We look to our leaders to have a viable, competent strategy to beat him, to unify, to have a plan to undo the damage and improve on our country once Biden takes power. But, alas, incompetence reigns supreme. For those of you not aware, in 2006, the Republican Congress, after it had been voted out, put in a pernicious little requirement in the pension requirements for the United States Postal Service, basically saying that they had to pre-fund it for 75 years. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that there is no other organization on the face of the earth, none, that has to do this. So when you have heard time and time and time again that the post office is losing money, the reason that this has been the case is because the vast majority of their funds needs to go to populate a pension fund that has such egregious requirements that they operate at a loss. And we have all become so used to this that everybody just assumes that the post office loses money. Now, this would not be anywhere near the biggest problem that we have if it weren't for this little thing called the COVID-19 virus. We need to be able to vote by mail. And we are so used to the mail working that we just assume that as long as we get the ballot, we can put it in the mail and everything will be fine. Ladies and gentlemen, we are anything but fine. Right now, not hypothetically, not in the future, not a memo, literally right now, and for the last several weeks, Trump's Postmaster General has shut off the ability of postal employees to collect overtime. Sounds harmless, right? He's trying to save costs because supposedly the post office is losing money. Well, you may have noticed that you're not getting as much mail or that there's a delay. He is giving priority to Amazon packages instead of actual letters. Like if you wrote an actual letter to an actual person in the old, just like they used to in the old days, it would be under the Trump rules made last in priority. So that means that the ballot that you're planning on using so that you don't get the plague to defeat Trump is going to possibly not even get to you. And when it does get to you, if you don't immediately fill it out and turn it in, it might not get counted. Now, let's also put this in context of the Trump actual Gestapo and secret police that are being deployed in various cities around America to intimidate urban voters in preparation of putting them between you and the ballot box, and suddenly you have a minority that has no chance electorally of winning get a shot at the White House. Between messing with the post office and sending actual secret police that local mayors and local governors are refusing to stop, we are screwed unless we have some competence from the Democratic leadership. Job one is to fund the damn post office. Trump's postmaster monkey cannot forbid overtime as a cost-cutting measure if the post office is suddenly making money. Can he? Well, the Democrats have had the ability to fix this little problem by holding one of the two houses and co-signing appropriations bills that keep the lights on in the government every year but 2 years from the year 2016 to the year 2018. Yes, you heard that right. This happened in 2006. And any Democratic chamber of government, the Senate or the House, at a time that it was held by Democrats, could have chosen to stall the defense appropriations bill or any other appropriations bill that must be passed. They could have drawn a line in the sand and said, we are going to fund the post office. They could have done that at any time up until now. And they can still do that now. Right now, there are a number of appropriations bills going through Congress that the Democrats can add an amendment to in the House to automatically fund the United States Post Office. And technically they can do it without costing any money whatsoever. They just have to remove the stupid, unrealistic pension requirement. But Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, and so far as I can tell, Joe Biden, not a one of them, they say they use nice words like fund the post office or pay for election security, but none of them are actually doing the obvious intelligent thing of funding the United States Post Office. And it doesn't matter how many rallies you have, or how many clever ads the Lincoln Project comes up with, or how many people that Biden promises to hire for his cabinet, or who he chooses as vice president. None of these things matter if we cannot vote. And we will not be able to vote this year if we don't have a functional post office. So the post office is the nail by which the entire free world depends. Because country by country, all around the world, illiberal democracy is on the march. Hong Kong, Poland, Hungary, one by one, legitimate democracies are falling because of corruption and because of the ineptitude of the leader of democracy, which is the United States of America, which is either being run by a fascist tyrant or by a weak Democrat who isn't willing to stand up for democracy at any cost. And, I'm not saying that we have to pay for every war in the world. But if we can't fund the damn post office, we should just give up. Because, ladies and gentlemen, if you can't vote, you don't have a democracy. And if you don't have the ability to vote by mail, you can't vote. Let me repeat that. It doesn't matter what everyone else does. All of these things that people are doing, the valiant protesters in the street, the clever ads, the posting on Facebook and Twitter, none of it matters if you can't vote. And you will not be able to vote if the post office isn't working. And the post office can't work if it's not funded. So if you hear this, you should pick up the phone and call your Democratic congressman or your Democratic senator and say that they will not get your vote in 2020 or 2022 or any other election in the future if they don't fund the post office. And let me put this in terms that you might understand. Even if it's a congressman that you like and you think you might be lying by saying that you're not going to vote for them, the truth is you're actually not lying. And I'll tell you why. Because if your Democratic congressman does not vote to fund the post office, then you're not going to be voting in any election ever again. Because after 2020, there will be no more elections in this country. You think I'm kidding? You think I'm lying? Take a look at what's happening in Portland. Right now, we have unmarked, unchallenged federal, supposedly, officers arresting people without reading them their rights, driving them around, and then letting them go in literal police tactics taken from the secret police in Nazi Germany. Ladies and gentlemen, this is frightening. If you think that it can't happen here, you are mistaken.
This has been the Tossing Grenades at Windmills podcast. Buy my book, Have Name Will Travel, available in many markets, including at Amazon.com. Copyright
2019.
Red Anvil Amalgamated, LLC.
To fight the forces of evil!